Well, that's it. The Wild are done this year. Mail it in. Let's go ahead and go for the number one overall pick. Trade everyone because the world is ending. It's over. Man, I was hoping this team would be something different, after being a Vikings fan and all that stuff, but of course not, because it's a Minnesota fucking sports team. We can never count on them to do anything. The world is ending. Alrighty, now with that said, let's actually get into this game here. Because, believe it or not, the Wild are actually still in a pretty good spot, all things considered, but fuck. Tonight's game was just one of those, you get those once in a while, those reality gut punches, but yeah. So for those of you who don't know, the Minnesota Wild lose 2-0 in Winnipeg against the Jets to fall to 28-11-3. Still very much in a playoff position, but holy shit, Moose. I mean, what was that? I understand you're an emotional dude. I mean, there's a reason why the Ek, Foligno, and, well, Greenway line are as potent as they are, but you literally got off your game there, dude. Like, and because of that, we're probably going to be out at least a game or two. And who's the next team we play? Why, we host Carolina, who is literally a top 5 team in the NHL right now. At least up until tonight. But, yeah, I mean, because I know they lost in a pretty close game against Toronto last night. I think they lost to Ottawa tonight here, so yeah, they lost 4-3 against Ottawa. So, I mean, they're coming off of a couple game losing streak here, but again, I shouldn't be surprised here because, the Jets also took down the St. Louis Blues right before the All-Star break, 4-1 in St. Louis, and it's just Winnipeg played their game tonight. That bar none, far and away, this, that, and the other thing. They just played their game, and the Wild couldn't recover. And it wasn't like Hellebuyck stood on his head, which, again, for those of you who know anything about Hellebuyck, if he stands on his head, he's a Vezina candidate. I mean, but it's just against the Wild this year, he's not looked great. Kapanen looked good, too. It's not like Kapanen was getting, absolutely murdered out there. I mean, it was only a 2-0 loss. I mean, but it's just one of those games that got really chippy, really, really quick. And we just couldn't recover. And also, yeah, like I say, too, kind of, before all of this stuff and this, that, and the other thing, it's just like the Wild are coming off of a 7-game point streak. It was like 9-0-1 after the Winter Classic this year. But eventually you're going to lose. Just ask Colorado losing to the Arizona Coyotes at home to end their 18 home game winning streak. The Arizona Coyotes, who might not even be the Arizona Coyotes come 8 to 10 months from now. But again, that's an interesting topic for an interesting debate for another day. Yeah. But anyway, kind of going back to here, though, it's just, in the Western Conference especially, the Central Division is it's going to be a meat grinder between now and the end of the year. Especially because after tonight, the Wild are officially in the second half of their season. With all the COVID pauses and all that stuff. And also, well, let's just say, hi, I'm Jacob. Welcome back to my channel. It's been a little bit of time, but unfortunately, I did end up getting hit with the virus that shall not be named. And, well, yeah, let's just say, thankfully I was vaccinated, this, that, and the other thing, but I'm not going to get political on here, this, that, and the other thing, too, because, well, whew, boy. That's all I got to say there. But anyway, kind of going back to this game. Thankfully, like I say, though, I'm also feeling a lot better after that. Because, well, let's just say the rest of the family that, I'm currently with also caught it about a week ago. And then, well, I got it a couple days later, this, that, and the other thing. And I'm finally getting over it. So, but anyway. I'm just thankful that I'm over this. But still. The Wild, as I mentioned before, are 28-11-3 after tonight's game. We are clearly not out of any running at this point. I mean, the Wild are still one of the top teams in the league. The Wild can definitely turn this around. But again, with Moose seeing red at the end of the game, I mean, good fucking God. I just hope that nothing really, hammerish comes down from the league here because, well, again, the NHL's been about as consistent as unstirred oatmeal. But to be fair, though, for diehard NHL fans, that's nothing new. I mean, this has been the same complaint and the same issues that have been going on the last how many years? But again, the Wild are 28-11-3 after the All-Star break and after getting beaten by Winnipeg 2-0 in Winnipeg, by the way. So, yeah, can't win them all, but hopefully this doesn't turn to a 4 or 5 game losing streak, because if this does, we could very easily see ourselves on the outside looking in, just because of how crazy the Central is this year. I mean, did I mention Colorado is literally one of the top teams in the entire NHL at this point? I mean, it's not even close. But to be fair, though, we all expected Colorado to be in the position they are at this point. So, yeah, we'll just see what happens here, because hopefully this is just one of those games where, every team has one of them, especially in a season that's, 80-plus games, or in the MLB, 160-plus games, where you just get punched in the teeth randomly. I mean, it happens. Even Stanley Cup winning teams get punched in the mouth once in a while, It's just how do they respond, especially with a high-octane opponent coming into town literally 3 or 4 days later. I mean, did I mention that Carolina is one of the top teams in the entire league? So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. The Wild got caught with their pants down, and, it happens, but I just hope that, again, the whole thing with Foligno scares me because of how, consistent the NHL has been. I mean, literally you could get knocked the hell out and be suspended for 1 game, but you fart wrong and you're out for a week. It's like 4 or 5 games, so I don't know. Also be interesting to see, because I didn't really follow this much, but I know in Pittsburgh, Boston, Marchand really got after Jarry, apparently, and just was acting like a fucking baby. So, what else is new, though? I mean, good God. I mean, Marchand's a pest. Marchand's a rat, but again, that's just Marchand's game. I mean, when he's on, he's one of the best players in the league, but good Lord, when you rattle him at all, he literally... Anyway, and not to turn into a Boston hate session here, but it'll be interesting to see what happens there, especially because, literally, thanks to Marchand, there's a rule saying no licking. Yeah, literally, I mean, again, something you wouldn't think that would have to actually be a rule, but again, yeah, so. Anyway, we'll go ahead and wrap this whole shit show of a video up. So yeah, after tonight's painful loss, the Wild are now 28-11-3. And, well, we host the Carolina Hurricanes on Saturday. So, granted, with all that said, though, still, cheers, because the Wild are currently in a great spot, all things considered. And as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, I will actually be watching this team live in March. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. March 24th against the Vancouver Canucks. I will be going to St. Paul to see the Wild take on the Canucks and Bruce Boudreau. So, cheers. And until we meet again, this is Jacob. Have a good night.